thanks for everyone who's in attendance and that. I'm going to just start here with one quick image here, which is the image here to the right of our screen. This is some gold that was panned from a part of our project. It's below our El Moreno prospect. And what I think is quite unique is the coarseness of this gold. On this little scale here, there's actually over an ounce of gold, these gold nuggets. So that's about $2,000 US worth of gold there. The rounded nugget here is actually about the size of the last bit of your baby finger. So it's very unusual to see gold of this coarseness. This is not the type of deposit we're actually looking to mine this sort of gold, but I just use this as an illustration of the abundance of gold on this really large project area where we have this gold mineralization. So I just want to highlight that because it's wonderful to see gold like that. So let me start sort of big picture. We have a large early to mid-stage gold silver exploration project in a prolific precious metal belt in Mexico. The company is positioned, we believe, to offer exceptional share price leverage to our exploration results. We're currently advancing some final surface work to move the project towards drilling. We hope that by early in the second quarter of this year that we'll start a $3 million, about 50-hole, 7,500 meter phase 1 resource drilling project or program. So let me just start again, sort of big picture. Let me introduce the company and the project. So our project is our flagship 5,333 hectare. It's about 13 kilometers by 4 kilometer Tenoriba project in the prolific Sierra Madre precious metal belt in Mexico. We have a large 15 square kilometer footprint. So that's about 5 kilometers by 3 kilometer area of gold silver mineralization. We've sampled thousands of samples, literally thousands of samples of gold, the highest being 74 gram per ton gold and 62 gram per ton silver. About $5.5 million has been spent on the project, including 26 drill holes. And just some highlight intersections, 25 meters grading 4 gram per ton gold, and then a longer interval of almost 127 meters grading half a gram of gold per ton. Mineralization appears as if it would be amenable to open pit mining. And the reason being is that we have all this gold on the surface. So it would appear that you would just start excavating from the surface. And also because we have the free gold, we believe there's a good opportunity that it could be amenable to low cost heap leach gold processing. The project had been optioned by Centerra Gold. So Centerra Gold is a $4 billion value company. They were to have spent US $10 million to earn a 70% interest. In September of last year, they announced to us that they were leaving Mexico. They were taking everything, they were going out of Mexico. And they returned 100% of the project to ourselves after they had spent 1.2 million Canadian over a 21-month period. And they actually had permitted to drill 139 drill holes and had 2 contractors bidding on that program. We got 100% of the project back with all of this work being advanced. I'm just as far as our management team, just between 3 of us, we've almost got 100 years of combined industry experience. I'm 35 years in the industry myself, a geologist, and then got a business degree and have worked in corporate investment banking, and have been a past senior executive of large companies plus junior companies all the way through exploration, similar to Mammoth, through to development. So just looking a little bit at our share structure, so we have about 47 million shares outstanding. We're held 15% by institutions, 2 institutions, one 10% and the other 5, 15% by insiders. Myself, I'm a 10% shareholder, and 30% by close associates to management. If you look at the depth of the market between those who are bidding and those asking to sell shares, only about $50,000 of trading would move our share price up by about 40%. And you can see in this share price performance graph, in the last year, we've increased almost 300% in the share price. We just did a finance. We just actually announced it closing yesterday for $688,000 at a price of 10 cents a share, which would value the company at about 10 times 47, about $4.7 million. At our average share price of around 11, 12 cents, it values us about 5.5 to 6 million. And I just want to point out that valuation really values the whole company at just at what had been spent at Tenoriba not giving us any upside for the potential that still exists on the property. And so I think we're quite conservatively valued. So here we are looking at our location. So here we are down here, Tenoriba, in this prolific Sierra Madre precious metal belt. We are surrounded by multi-billion-dollar companies with multi-million ounce deposits. Our two closest neighbors that have a similar type of mineralizing system as our own is El Sazel, which was 1.8 million ounces, and Mulatos up here about 270 kilometers away, which is 6 million ounces of gold. We have great access. We can drive to the property from any direction, and we also can fly from Los Moches. It's a major national airport. We can fly to within 25 minutes of our project camp, landing on a gravel landing strip in a small village, as I say, close to our property. This is that landing strip here, and about a 25-minute drive up to our field camp, and then another 25 minutes, and we're on the middle of the property. These are our 4 concessions that comprise the 5,333 hectares. And this is the area where we've spent most of our time exploring, but the project remains open to the east and the west as well. Just zooming in on those areas. So Moreno here in the west, still open further to the west, Masuparia in the middle, and then Canaritos here to the east. And again, it remains open to the east. And again, this is about 5 to 7 kilometers of strike length here. So this is the type of mineralizing system. It's called a high sulfidation system. This is a little bit of a cartoon drawing of these systems. And that what's interesting is the roots or the source of these are porphyry systems. And so porphyries can be porphyry gold with copper or porphyry copper with gold. It varies. But the roots of these systems are porphyry systems. And what's interesting is we go from the east of our project to the west. We actually drop down in elevation about 700 meters. So we're actually getting deeper into the system. And in fact, in addition to the gold and silver that we get in the central and the eastern portion, we actually had a really good copper intersection as well. So beyond just silver gold, we may also have potential for copper as we get deeper into the roots of this system. So I want to walk you through a little bit of the history leading us to where we are right now and the results we have and why we're so enthusiastic about the potential of the project. So one of the first phases of exploration is to do some soil geochemistry. Literally, you're sampling soil, dirt, and you're looking for remnant amounts of gold, which would be indicative of what would exist in the rocks below. And so these colors here are indications of grades of gold that were sampled in the soil. And so the deeper color, orange, is actually 0.2 gram per ton gold. That's extremely high grade for soils. In fact, literally in an open pit heap leach mine, that would be in the mine plan. They're using cutoffs of 0.18 to 0.2 gram per ton gold in some instances of open pit heap leach mines. So we're getting that in just in soil and dirt. The black dots here, this is where the predecessor that had the property in 2007 and 2008 gave it back to the owners in 2008 after the global financial crisis, and then we optioned it in 2012. But this is where they did some of their initial drilling here. And then all of these white squares all along here are areas in our first pass of sampling and mapping where we got grades better than 0.3 gram per ton gold. We never announced anything below 0.3 gram per ton gold. Each one of these squares is 1 kilometer. And so there's about a 5 kilometer by 3 kilometer trend, which gives us our 15 square kilometer area of gold mineralization. This is some of the drilling that was done, that first round of drilling that was done. And you can see some of the grades. So there's 1.9 meters of almost 46 gram per ton gold. Below that, 11.5 of 2.25. There's an intersection of 34 grams of 34 meters of about a gram, and then 66 meters of 0.5. All of these, and these are just 6 of potentially 10, which were economical. These are 6 showing results. All of these would be economical in an open pit heap leach setting. And this was the first round of drilling that was done, again, by our predecessor. This is our mapping and sampling. I made some reference to it. We sampled in this first pass about 600 samples. These are chip samples, about 2 meters long on average. And that we didn't do anything. We were taking little samples of 10 or 20, or 10, 20, 30 centimeters. They were all about 2 meters in length. The red squares are from 10 to 74 gram per ton gold. The amber from 1 to 10 the brown from 0.5 to 1, and then the yellow is 0.3 to 0.5. Again, we didn't sample anything below 0.3. And these squares, this grid here, these are 2 kilometers. So you can see sampling over here, there's 2, 4, 6, about 7 kilometers trend of mineralization on the project with these samples. Again, I mentioned gold occurring as free gold. So this is just some microscope work showing these gold grains outside of these other grains. And it's this gold outside and occurring as free gold that means it could be amenable to heap leach processing. Beyond the chip samples that I referred to earlier, we also did channel samples. So here you see they're cutting into the rock here, and they're actually sampling along these channels. And what we did is we went to the largest outcroppings of rock that we could see throughout this 7-kilometer trend, and we took the longest channels that we could take within those, just to see what kind of average grades we would get beyond simply the 2-meter intervals. And here's some of their results. So there's one that's 15.5 meters, grading a gram, 7 meters, 1.36, 13.5 meters of 1.55. Again, this is as long as we could take in the outcrops that were available. We had a couple that weren't so great, but if you took all of the others, it totaled 129 meters, grading about 0.8 gram per ton gold, which would be a very robust grade in an open pit heap leach type mine. We also did geophysics. Now, we only covered about 40% of the property using geophysics. And the reason is, quite frankly, we didn't know if it was going to work. So we just covered 40% of the area. And then the idea was, let's see what kind of features we see in that geophysics. And then from those features, we would go out and drill test them. But what I want to point out is there's a gap here. There's a 1.2 kilometer gap here. This area here, Moreno, and this is actually above where that free gold that I showed in the first slide was sampled. In this area, we only covered 200 meters. There are 100-meter intervals between these lines. And so we only actually covered 200 meters here. So there's a 1.2 kilometer gap. We only have 200 meters. All of this area is still open to be tested. And so this is the looking at it as a plan, what the features were for the geophysics. So we have this really big area over here, and we have this strong trend coming along this area here. And I don't think it takes a lot of imagination to say or to suggest that, well, you've got good features here, you've got some features here. This is this 1.2 kilometer gap. I think it's probably continuous. And then of course, it's open over here further to the west, and it's open further to the east. This is where we drilled. So the blue dots are our drilling. These two up here were just because we needed to spend some money up to keep this northern concession. So they weren't really targeting things. We just had to spend some money up there. But the other ones were targeting mineralization over about 4 kilometers of this trend. Again, the red ones, that's the historic drilling from the predecessor in 2007 to 2008. And these are our results. So in the western area, there's 5.9 meters of almost 3.5. This is that copper intersection I made reference to. So 7 meters of about 3.6% copper. This is now the central area. There's 10 meters of 1.13. There's a 23-meter intersection of 1.32. And then we go further to the east. There's that long intersection I made reference to, 127 meters of 0.52, of which there was 25 meters grading 1.21. So this is the results that we got in our program testing some of our geophysics, but we've not followed up on any of these yet. And there's all this other potential over this 4 to 6, 7 kilometer trend. So what we want to do next, Centerra had the project, they advanced at a certain stage, but unfortunately they left. And so there's the question of like, well, what did they do and what were the benefits? And so what we decided to do is we went out and we actually engaged a PhD geologist. So this is a geologist who's got tons of years. He's studied to his PhD level. He's worked for major companies. We had him come out. He analyzed all of our data and spent about a week on the project reviewing all of the data as well and seeing the outcrops and stuff. And so he's written a report with his views and his recommendations. And it's basically saying a lot of what we just saw, that it's a high sulfidation system and all this opportunity. We're doing a 3-dimensional interpretation of our historic geophysical data, and we're incorporating all the surface in the drill data so we can get a better sense of what the opportunities are between the surface data and what we see at depth with the geophysics. And we're doing right now, I mean, we'll be announcing the start of the guys actually being on the field doing the survey. They're actually putting in the grid now to do an infill of this geophysics, covering that 50% to 60% of the property that wasn't covered in the first program. So we'll have this PhDs recommendations based on his view of the project. We're going to have 3D modeling, and then we're going to have this infill geophysics, reincorporating all of that into 3D models so that we can select the best targets for our drilling to embark on this $3 million 50-hole 7,500 meter program to test the resources at the project. So that's what our intentions are going forward, and things are moving forward. You know, again, the geophysics will be starting in the next week or so, and then we'll be incorporating that into 3D modeling. We'll be coming out shortly with the report from the PhD geologist and his suggestions and recommendations moving the project forward. So on that, I'm happy to turn it over for questions.
Sure, Thomas, there's a few here. The first one coming from Foon here. Why did Centerra Gold not working to stop the partnership with Mammoth?
Yeah, well, again, they left Mexico. So it had nothing to do with our project. They chose to leave Mexico. And you know, what I'd heard was that they had some security concerns on a project about 700 kilometers from where we're located. We've had no issues at all in our area. We've been there, well, it'll be 9 years this April that we've been in that area without any issue, but they had issues in another project and they left Mexico. So 2 weeks after they gave us notice, they had opened up their office and were selling all their equipment. They sold their fleet of pickup trucks and they left Mexico.
Sure. One question coming from Herman here is asking about the financing. So why did investors will buy into the recent financing as it was done without warrants? So you can maybe explain a bit there.
Yes, well, everybody always wants warrants. And that the reason that we didn't do the warrants was because, quite frankly, look, I didn't want the potential overhang that exists with warrants as we go to the next financing to do the drilling. And so, yes, everyone likes warrants, but if we didn't do warrants this time, I intend to do it on the next financing for the drilling, but yeah, that's why.
Sure. This question from Kyle. What are the main institutional investors in this company?
Yes, so US Global, Ralph Aldis, Frank Holmes from San Antonio, Texas, they're a 10% shareholder. Ralph's a great guy. He's been very supportive every time I've done a financing. And the other one is Swiss 3000. So they're a small cap fund of the larger Swiss 2000 gold fund, and they're 5%. They're 10% as well.
Sure. The one last question here from Shan is: do you have a position in the company? How much shares do you have?
Yes, I'm a 10% shareholder myself.
Okay, that's it for this time. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you so much, Gilbert.